Hello everyone, welcome back to Chibi and Chill, the anime podcast, the podcast that talks all about all things anime, all things manga, anything that you're kind of thinking Japan related, it's about anime, it's about manga, I'm going to be talking about it on this podcast, so be sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. Down in the episode show notes you'll find links to my Etsy shop where you can find a bunch of anime themed goodies for you to shop and enjoy. There's pin badges, there's stationery, there's keyrings and more. Whether you're a One Piece fan, a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, a Pokemon fan, a Mario fan or anything else, you'll find a goodie on the shop for you to check out. There's something for every anime and manga fan over there. The link is down in the footer in the show notes, so be sure to check out my Etsy shop, Chibi Weeb merch on Etsy. So this week's theme is all about Ghibli and the Oscar win that they've just had. And I want to kind of dive into that, why it's so kind of historic, I guess, why it's so important and what it kind of means for anime going forward. But this week has been a bit of a crazy week. It's felt like a long week a little bit, but over on my story on Instagram and on Threads and on Facebook, there's been some voting going on, and I've kind of asked the audience, all my followers over on all those platforms, to vote for the new look of Chibi and Chill. So the new look of this podcast. It's been a while, and it's kind of had a similar look for this entire time, and I kind of wanted to give it a little bit of a facelift. And being a graphic designer, a website designer by actual trade, like my 9-to-5 job, it's so hard to design for yourself. It's so much easier designing for a client and designing for a brief that someone set you than setting your own brief and designing for yourself. It's too personal, I guess. And also, I kind of really wanted to get your guys' opinion. I want to know what you want the podcast to look like. What kind of vibe do you want it to have visually? I find that's really important. I know we often say, don't judge a book by its covers, but come on. I mean, if a book doesn't look nice, I'm probably not going to pick it up. And I think that's the same with the podcast, if I'm honest. If the cover art doesn't look great, I'm probably not going to click on it. So over on my stories, I'll pop it up again today, just to kind of reinvigorate it a little bit. I posted it a couple of times because with it being on a story, it's limited, isn't it? I think it's only on for 24 hours. But so far, it's actually been pretty evenly split. You'll see the designs. I won't dwell on this for too long, but go ahead, go and vote on my Instagram story. Find me, Chibi Weeb Anime, over on there and have a vote. I want to hear what your voice is. What do you think of the podcast? I'm probably going to run this for a little bit of time as well. I'm probably going to do a couple of versions and have everyone's input for quite a while just to really settle on something that I know that I'm happy with, that the community is happy with. And yeah, let's collaborate on it. Let's make sure the podcast is something that we all love, both visually and audible content wise. But anyway, without further ado, that's long enough on that. So, The Boy and the Heron, right? The new Ghibli film. The Boy and the Heron beat Disney's Elemental and Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse to win the Best Animated Feature Film prize at this year's Oscars. And this is their second win of an Oscar. And the 83-year-old Miyazaki won the Golden Globe for the very same film, The Boy and the Heron, last January as well. So this film is racking up those awards. It's doing so well. And I think this one has the most prominence and it's in the zeitgeist of culture more than I think the other ones are. And I think that has a lot to say about anime in general. Not quite so much about Ghibli, I don't think. But let's dive into a little bit what the film... We'll dive into all that later on. Let's go into what the film and dive into it a little bit further. So the film is set during World War II, and it's a semi-autobiographical film about a boy who meets a mysterious speaking heron after losing his mother. So it's a traditional kind of Ghibli kind of vibe with the war, with the animals and the kind of spiritual kind of side. So I've not seen it yet. I have to watch it. I don't know how I haven't watched it yet. But honestly, it has had rave reviews, and I mean rave reviews. But the co-founder of the Japanese animation studio Ghibli, Miyazaki, won his first Oscar in 2003 for Spirited Away, which if you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. But it's about a girl who tries to save her parents who are turned into pigs at a spiritual bathhouse, making it the first non-animated film to win the title. And that in 2003 was groundbreaking. That was absolutely, it wasn't heard of for a non-English animated film to win best animated feature. So that was the kind of catapult for Ghibli of mainstream pop culture, I guess. Anime fans had heard of Ghibli, and it was popular before that. It was a great success before that. But this made it popular in the West, and it kind of added to its kind of weight, to its clout, I guess, to allow the Western audience, that people that are into movies, they're into films, but wouldn't necessarily look at a Ghibli film, an animated film, or an anime film specifically, as something that could contend with the likes of Disney or Sony or Pixar, and kind of sit amongst the greats, I guess, of animation. But Spirited Away went on to become Japan's highest grossing movie of all time and held the record for 19 years. That is how popular that film was. And My Neighbor Totoro, which is an adorable film, it's probably the most iconic film from the studio, is, again, just in case, is a film about two sisters and their mystical, almost rabbit-like friend who's gigantic and grey and cute. But that is Japan's most popular, or one of Japan's most popular icons and movies, and has become the mascot for the studio. So if you Google, if you don't know, if you Google Studio Ghibli, you'll see Totoro. But Miyazaki has been nominated in the Best Animated Feature, or I guess I guess it is Miyazaki himself, isn't it? That's been animated. No. That's been nominated for Best Animated Feature category 4 times in total, which must feel awesome for him, especially at 83. I guess it's kind of this. Also, I guess it's kind of weird, isn't it? Imagine getting to 83 and feeling like everyone, all the work that, especially this one, that he's yet again come out of retirement to make, feel like that's his kind of like go-to thing now. But imagine being 83 and knowing that your work that you put so much time and effort into still wins Oscars, and it's still loved so much by not only the anime community, but by the community of people that love animated films or people that kind of dabble in those areas. You know, that must feel absolutely awesome. So The Boy and the Heron not only has won the studio's second Oscar, but this is another record break for the movie industry or the anime industry, or both, in the same time. So this is the second time that an anime movie has won an Oscar, and the first time being, yet again, Studio Ghibli with Spirited Away. So not only did they very first with Spirited Away completely set history and break the record of having the first Oscar, but they've also won the second one, meaning the Studio Ghibli again has cemented itself as an absolute anime and culture powerhouse. And I wonder, at what point do we start seeing other anime studios start to take on these feats? So we've got so many anime movies being made at the minute. You know, we have One Piece film Red that was obviously very popular, but that wasn't in the Oscar nominees. We've got things such as the Demon Slayer movie. I know that technically has a recap of the first episode, so I don't think that technically sits in there. But we had Mugen Train. And then we've also got things like Jujutsu Kaisen 0, and I wonder at what point do the Oscars kind of take on the nominees from the wider anime culture, I guess, the anime industry, the anime media. I wonder at what point do they start kind of branching that out even further to include more nominees, or do they have to kind of just have one? I don't really know what the scoring system is or how it's kind of even done, but I find that's interesting that the first one was Ghibli, the second one was Ghibli. So I wonder at what point do we start seeing others start to really become nominated, awarded, or recognised, I guess, in general. But let's take a little short break. I'll grab a little drink of my tea and we'll talk about the other record that was broken and how Asia got really nominated highly at the awards this year. If you're a gamer much like me, then why not check out Razer? You can find a bunch of accessories from mouses, keyboards, headsets, mouse mats and more to the bigger stuff like gaming laptops and desktops. Over on the Razer website, link down below, you can shop a whole host of gaming accessories from the Chroma range, which is all colourful, which is my favourite stuff, to more sleek black stuff, including even their own merchandise, clothing, bags and accessories. There's something for everyone. The link is down below for you to check out and shop. So the second Oscar win for Best Animated Feature wasn't the only kind of record that was broken by Studio Ghibli / Hayao Miyazaki that night on the Oscars. So Miyazaki is now the oldest winner in the category ever at 83 years old, with the previous record holder being Mark Gustafson, who was 63 years old at the time. His film Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio, I know for a fact I said that horrendously, but bear with. If you know the film, you'll know. If not, I guess you could just Google his name and find it. But he won for the Best Animated Feature also. And on top of this, Miyazaki is now tied with Pete Docter as the most animated, I keep saying that, with the most nominated director in the category, with 4 nominations, and these other ones were Howl's Moving Castle and The Wind Rises. Howl's Moving Castle, honestly, that thing is a masterpiece. That is probably one of my absolute favourite anime films ever, if not the favourite film, actually. When I think of actual anime films, that is probably my go-to, and that's always my go-to for Ghibli films as well, that and Spirited Away. But amazing films. I think it's very cool to see these minor, well, not minor, they're not minor, are they? But these, not just the award win itself be recognised, but these little areas of Ghibli and anime film in general, as a whole, had been nominated 4 times in the Oscars. So that's 4 times that the wider audience of people that don't watch anime and the wider audience of an older generation that love watching the Oscars, that kind of culture of people that love watching award shows, love movies, love that kind of thing, but don't watch anime, have seen Ghibli 4 times being nominated for an Oscar, and that sets a tone, I think, and that sets a cultural kind of bar, I guess, for anime films, and it kind of means that I think it stops events like this. I think change the perception of anime, and it changes it proves that anime isn't just a cartoon, if you know what I mean. When people think of Pixar, they think of this amazing animation, these amazing effects, and all this stuff. People, I guess some people do call Pixar a cartoon, but I think it sets a different tone, and it proves that anime is such a cultural powerhouse, such a phenomenon that's so immensely popular. And when it wins things like this, the Oscars, it proves it through and through. It becomes such an immense moment for the industry. And anime at the minute is going through such a huge boost, and I'm not entirely sure what is causing the boost. We've got Demon Slayer, which is taking over New York. One Piece is taking over New York. is taking over major cities. We've got Megan Thee Stallion, for example. We know Meg's a weeb and amazing. I love Megan Thee Stallion. I love her music, but her as well is so cool. And we see her posting photos of, if you go on her Instagram, you can kind of see her dressed like one of the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure characters, like Gojo, and all these things are just her audience seeing anime, and it's so much in the cultural zeitgeist and cultural kind of dialogue at the minute that it's kind of crazy, and I find it a little bit crazy. It's wild. We've got the Puma and One Piece collection that's, I think it's, has it launched now? I think it's coming soon if it isn't already launched, but there's more brands are falling over themselves to collaborate with big name anime and falling over themselves to become relevant in that kind of zone, and yes, I do understand it is a business. So, if an anime doesn't make money, it doesn't exist, and I totally understand that. That makes sense. But I think it's interesting that the idea around anime and the perception around anime has completely shifted from when I was younger, and it was this like niche weird thing, a weird Japanese cartoon that I was watching, that, why am I buying a comic book that's called a manga, but you read it the opposite way to what we do in the West, and why is it all kind of drawn weird? It's interesting to see these shifts, and it makes me so happy to be an anime fan now, and seeing my TikTok filled with people, and my Instagram filled with people just loving anime and being so unashamed for it. And I think this is going to get really deep now, isn't it? I'm going to stop now. But I think it just proves the Oscar wins for Ghibli. Yes, it's Ghibli again, but I think it proves and it sets a tone for anime. And I think over the next year or so, I think we'll start to see the awards shows really shift. But also, as well as Japan as a whole kind of got nominated. No, Japan as a whole didn't get nominated. But Godzilla Minus One was the first movie from the 70-year-old monster franchise that is Godzilla to receive an Oscar. And I think that's interesting as well, isn't it? The Japan on Sunday had its kind of like best night for the Oscars. It was the best visual effects winner, which was Godzilla Minus One. So the franchise itself is 70 years old, and it won its first Oscar that night, the same night that Ghibli won its second. So that's 2 awards that have gone to Japanese franchises or Japanese studios, Japanese icons, I guess. And I think that's amazing that yet again we are having so much focus on Japanese media, Japanese icons, and seeing that conversation and discussion around it change into something that's serious, I guess, proper, something like a proper conversation about it instead of just, oh, it's a cartoon, that kind of turned into more of like a lecture, didn't it? But what do you think? What do you think about the Ghibli Oscar win? What film would you like to see at next year's Oscars from anime be nominated? I know we've got a long run up and there could be more coming out. I know we've got things like Chainsaw Man movie being is that being confirmed or rumoured? I can't remember now. But there's so much that could be nominated, and I think we're on the precipice of anime winning award after award after award. Major events like the Oscars, major cultural events like the Oscars. So, one, I have multiple questions. One, did you watch The Boy and the Heron? What did you think of it? Let me know on social media. Find me, leave a comment on my recent post, or message me, reply to my story, all that good stuff. Let me know what you thought of The Boy and the Heron. I desperately need to watch it. 2, what film or what franchise would you love to see if they don't have a movie, when they do make a movie, or when it comes out, that kind of thing? What franchise would you love to see nominated at something like the Oscars? I think that'd be really interesting. I want to see kind of what the fan base of the podcast is mostly into, I guess. What anime would you love to see? I personally would love to see something like Demon Slayer or One Piece, potentially go for it, because they're just insanely good. But let me know. Find me on social media. You'll find me at Chibi Weeb Anime on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, basically everything. Find me on there. You'll find a bunch of stuff on there as well. Thank you for joining today's episode. I've got a bunch of anime to watch. I'm sure you do as well. So let's get to it. Let's fill out our bucket lists. Let's go. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Chibi and Chilled Anime Podcast. Thank you so much for every listen and download. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. From one week to another, thank you. Please do leave a rating and a review on the podcast platform that you're listening on this to. It really does support the show. It only takes a few seconds and it's free. I cannot ask. If I ask one thing of you, I'd ask that. Please do leave a rating and a review, even if it's not great. Please let me know. You know, it's even a bad one. Well, bad press is always what's the saying? Any press is good press, I guess. Oh, that rhymed. So a rating and a review would be great. It really does support the show. So thank you so much for whatever kind of review you do leave. Sometimes finding a birthday card or an occasion card can be a boring task. However, I have some anime-themed cards on my Thortful.co.uk creator profile, which is found in my links on social media. Over on Thortful, you'll find a bunch of anime-themed cards, such as Studio Ghibli Happy Birthday cards and more, with my range being updated regularly. Each card is processed by Thortful.co.uk, with shipping being fast, quick and efficient. You can shop my anime-themed cards over on my Instagram, with my links being over on there. Just search Chibi Weeb Anime and you'll find me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. It really does mean a lot. Please do leave a rating and a review down below. It really does support the show and it's free to do. I'll see you next time. I'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. If you're a subscriber or if you're thinking of subscribing or starting the free trial on Apple Podcasts, I'll see you on Sunday for the next episode of the Chibi Piece exclusive Apple Podcast exclusive episode on Sunday. Thanks guys. Bye bye.